Hi, this is Daniel Ryan, and this is Odessa After Dark. On this episode of Odessa After Dark, we talk about the arrest in the Wendy Burdette murder case. Also, we'll speak with Susan Rogers as far as following up on the Teresa Wagner unsolved case, and we start a new segment called Hidden Gems in Odessa. Two years ago, we brought you the unsolved murder of Wendy Burdette, who was found here, and since our last episode, arrest was made in this case. He is now in prison. He was been charged with murder and sexual assault, and so we'll speak a little bit with Susan Rogers as far as how this came about. And so we're all very excited to see this case come to a close after 26 years. Hi, this is Daniel Ryan with Susan Rogers from Odessa Crime Stoppers. And so since our last show, we had some amazing news. After 26 years, someone was arrested in the Wendy Burdette case that we had been doing for the last 2 years, and
Yes.
that you've been working on
for many years.
a lot longer. So, how did it feel to receive that phone call?
It was really exciting when they called to let me know that they were en route with the man that committed the homicide. It's a really good feeling. You know, I talked to her parents back when we first started running this many years ago, and of course her mother's passed away since then. But you know, I was really very pleased. The Odessa Police Department did an excellent job, and that, you know, there have been detectives. I can't tell you how many detectives' hands have been all over that case that wanted that thing solved so badly. And the ones that are up there right now, even though that case was 20 plus years old, I mean, they got right on top of it. They went and did the things they needed to be. They're an extraordinary group of young men that are up there and ladies that are taking care of that, and they did an excellent job closing this one.
Well, it was one of those things where they had the DNA evidence, but they couldn't match it to anybody, and they tried to match it to one person they thought it could be, and it wasn't. And so, how surprised were you that they finally found that person?
Well, you know, we've come a long way. We've got, you know, technology has come a long way, and thank goodness for DNA and being able to compare those things. It's exciting that they were able to do that. As soon as they got a hit on that, I know those investigators over there got to work on that and started working on it, and were able to see it all the way through. And it went pretty quickly once they got that information. You know, I think it's the public thinks that, you know, that DNA is automatically entered, it's automatically run against things, and it really doesn't quite work that way. It's not like it is on television. You know, there's not a computer out there just running everybody's DNA against everybody's DNA. You know, but once they did get a hit on it and were able to go make contact with him and figure out that was their guy, you know, it went pretty quickly.
And this is someone that they had talked to previously, and so. One of the articles I read in the Odessa American that we alerted to before was that there was a number of suspects at the time, but they couldn't make an arrest. So, and the one thing that we'll hopefully find out in the trial is the motive, because it was a brutal crime.
Yes, it was very brutal. Very brutal. She was very young.
And to either take her out there or lure her out there when she supposedly was supposed to be in school that day, I'm curious to find his reasoning. We may never know the real reason why he did it, but at least he can't hurt anybody else, because there was a number of people through the last 26 years, according to the police record, that he has hurt.
Yes,
so.
There is. He's off the street. We don't have to worry about that anymore. It'll be interesting at the trial. You know, I think the original officers that worked the case are still around. So a lot of them had been contacted by the detectives today that. And to let them know that, you know, that it was taken care of. They did, you know, their work was very useful in the case as well, and so it'll be an interesting case when it goes to trial. And
you work with Crime Stoppers throughout Texas, because you serve on, I can't remember the name of the board. You serve on what board?
On the Texas Crime Stoppers Council.
Okay, and so how how unusual or how unique is it to have a case solved after this many years?
Well, it is unusual to have one solved. The one thing that I think everybody needs to remember, though, is even though it's a cold case, those detectives, whether it be here in Odessa or be in Houston or be in Dallas, wherever it is, they remember those cases. They're not really ever closed. When they've got the opportunity to work on a cold case, they're working on that case, trying to get it closed. Just because it goes cold doesn't mean it's forgotten. And they do that all across the country.
Okay. Well, and so this was an exciting week, and we look forward to finding out. He has been charged with first-degree murder and sexual assault, and so we'll see in a few years, because it just takes forever, as I know personally, for these kind of events. But at least he is behind bars, and thank you for your part.
Thank you.
My name is Zoe Alvarado, and I'm here at Vintage Deluxe for our new segment, Unique Gems That You Can Buy. What do you have to show us today?
I have some photographs by Henry Yamada.
Can you tell us more about this Henry Yamada?
Well, you know how we get things in antique stores and we don't always know the backstory? I know the whole backstory to this gentleman because one of my good friends was one of his good friends. So he and his father immigrated to the United States from Japan sometime before World War II. World War II broke out, and Henry still had family in Japan, but he joined the United States Army and served. He was a veteran. During the course of the war, he lost his entire family in Japan except for his father that was here in the United States with him. But he was a proud American, and he was a veteran, and he served in the U.S. Army instead of going to a Japanese internment camp. And the photos I have are him in art school, New York City, early 1950s, where he lived for many years. He came to Odessa at some time, we're not sure the date, and he befriended my friend Ronnie Neal, who was actually my high school photography teacher at Permian High School here. They were friends for several years, and when Henry passed, Mr. Neal actually went and spread his ashes in California per his request. So we know the whole backstory, and he was an incredible photographer, but he never was a professional photographer, just a hobby photographer. But that is a self-portrait of Henry.
Which of Henry Yamada's photos do you like the best?
I like his self-portrait a lot. It's him with the dual flex camera that was a 1950s camera. I like the models, but I like the Japanese models probably the best. And some of these he signed with his last name, and the way he cropped the photos were interesting. And here he's got some photos of Japanese Americans that were in the New York area.
That's another model photo?
Yes,
Very
really
beautiful.
Really great photo with the umbrella.
Well, how much do these pictures cost?
It's probably $75 as a group, but honestly, they may go live with me at my house. I like them a lot.
Thank you very much for showing us these photos, and we really appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you, and we appreciate y'all coming to visit, and come see us. We're open Tuesday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Sunday afternoons, 1 to 5, and closed Mondays.
Let's talk about another subject we covered last episode was the death of Teresa Wagner. For people who haven't watched that episode, Teresa Wagner was left naked in West Odessa and was found approximately 4 or 6 weeks later after she was left. She was found by an article in the newspaper that a sketch artist had done her tattoo, and that her sister recognized it, and they made identification from that and from her dental records. Since we did the episode, there's been quite a bit of buzz, and she was found back in '92, so we're talking 23 years ago. But a lot of the people who went to school with her still live in the area, and she was, as we've talked about before, she wasn't like somebody who just moved in to work for the oil field. Her dad was part of the community, her family was part of the community, so she had that close...
She had roots.
Yeah, she had roots, she had that close-knit family. And so she went to Avalon, and according to one post that we received, the last place that she was seen was West LA. And you were telling me that was a club on 8th Street?
Yes, there's a club on 8th Street that was a pretty popular club back in that time. West LA, a lot of people hung out there. It was just one of the places to be back then.
And so was there other clubs on 8th Street? So when you went out, because I didn't live here in '92, so when you went out, did you go, like, say, club hopping, and you'd go this place and dance, and this place
there
and
were
go?
several different places in that area that were there. The brewery was there back in the day, which was real close to that. So there were several that around there that if you were the kind that went out partying, that you would go from club to club over there.
And she was going to school at the Avalon Technical Institute, so it was probably one of the things that they did, and she probably had a group of friends that she went out with, because I can't see ever going out by yourself, because that's just no fun.
Right.
And so, and we don't know necessarily when she died, because that was never determined, but these are some of the last times that she's been seen.
Right.
And so there's no definite person who's ever come forward and say, well, I was the last person to see her, or I saw her after this night that she went out. And so that was one of the things we want to bring up to the public.
With what we've put out there, with what you've put out there, it's drawn enough interest that the sheriff's department has actually got an investigator looking over the case, looking over what went on back then. So for all practical purposes, the case is reopened. We always say that a cold case is never closed. It's always there. Given if the officer has the time to do the investigation, and they are doing that. The sheriff's office has committed someone to that, and they're looking into it. It's opened and being looked at currently. Which is a good thing. We want them to look at what happened with her. In this day and time, I think that there are still people around who knew what happened to her. Somebody needs to clear their conscience. We know that. Something happened to her, whether it was actual foul play, whether she was killed, we don't know that. But somebody out there knows. Somebody knows, and just like in the Wendy Burdette case, this can go on for years, but there's always still that possibility that this case is going to get solved. Technology's come a long way. Technology could play a factor in this.
Well, and it would be exciting to bring another case to fruition, to end here, and bring somebody to justice, or at least know what happened to her if it wasn't foul play.
One of the things we would tell people is if you knew her at that time, if you were out with her that night, if you know anything about that you weren't comfortable going to law enforcement and talking about back in the 80s, maybe you're more comfortable now. Maybe it's time that you get in touch with someone at the sheriff's office and let them know that you want to come in and talk about that case and talk about the things that went on. Somebody out there knows something. People can't keep secrets these days. It's hard to keep a secret.
Well, and plus, if more than one person knows, or according to the one person on Facebook, they talked about her not being at school.
Yeah.
They talked about her going out.
When she went missing, this would have been a big thing. She was a hometown girl. She had roots here. Her family had roots here. She had 2 little kids. And this was a big thing for her to go missing and be gone for that long of a time period. And then when they found her body, not knowing how she wound up out there. So I'm sure the talk back in the day, I'm sure there was a lot of talk. She had a lot of friends. She had a lot of friends that she hung around with. And, so there, somebody knows something. I'm confident that somebody out there knows something. I'm confident that that whoever this person is, I think this is one of those cases that we will draw to a close.
Well, and it's important to have a timeline to know where she went from, say, 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. to 2 a.m. And so to fill in these pieces. And so this helps law enforcement. So even if you don't think that you have a fact that plays into it, you actually do. If you were with her anytime that last week before she went missing, it would really, I think, be helpful.
Right, and if you don't want to go to law enforcement and talk to him, that's what Crime Stoppers is here about. Back in the day, if you weren't comfortable with law enforcement, if you were one of those young adults that stayed out, you might have been into some drug activity, whatever the reason was that you weren't comfortable talking to law enforcement. If you're comfortable now, now's the time to do it. She does have kids here. Her mother and father are still alive. They need closure. We want them to have closure. Crime Stoppers is here for you to call that information in anonymously if that's what you want to do. Give us as much detail as you can. You know, if you don't want to talk to someone about it, you can go to our website, which is odessacrimestoppers.org, and you can actually type in your own tip. It's secure. We don't track it. We don't trace it. We just need that information. We need that information to help solve this.
Good. Well, thank you for talking with us. I look forward to seeing you at the Cigar Fest, which is coming up in just a few weeks. So, thank you.